From Nutrien Ag Solutions, I'm Senior Meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your Canadian Prairie weather story for Monday, December 18th, 2023. I apologize for not being with you a week ago today. I've had all sorts of technical issues getting the video recorded and then uploaded, so I just needed to get the email and report sent out. But we're rolling today. We are still having some frustrating technical issues here today. It is the Wi-Fi that does not want to cooperate. So slower internet speeds this morning, but we are here regardless. Let's talk about the weather. It continues to be pretty quiet across the Canadian Prairie. I tell you right now, it's going to be mild and relatively quiet through the end of December, and that is what pretty much all signs point to for the majority of January. Do we see some changes? Possibly, but right now there are no big, strong signs pointing toward any sort of significant change across the Canadian Prairie. So North America kind of flanked by two really intense areas of upper level low pressure. One of those is crawling up the east coast of the U.S. right now. Another one of those sitting off the Pacific coast, bringing some moisture to parts of California and the southwestern United States. The radar is quiet across the Canadian Prairie here this morning. Maybe some light flurries as you get over towards the Grand Prairie, Peace River area, and maybe some of the foothills there in western and southern Alberta seeing some flurries, but otherwise pretty quiet across the prairie. Temperatures a little more mild in the west than they are in the east. A shot of colder air, temperatures anywhere from 12 to 18 below zero this morning across southern portions of Manitoba, with some colder air moving through. But again, as it has really been through much of the winter so far, these shots of cold air relatively short-lived, with mild temperatures compared to winter averages start to move back in. So the last 7 days of precipitation, it has been really quiet across the region. Just some inconsequential, corridors of light snow, maybe some flurries across the area, or even some light rain showers in some cases. And as we look at the next 7 days of precipitation from the European ensemble model, again, a big hole right there across the Canadian Prairie through the northern high plains of the U.S. and the upper Midwest. This area just continues to be missed as the storm track continues to track off to the south. Total snow over the next week, again, very light, inconsequential snow flurries expected. No corridors of significant accumulating snow. Likely that a lot of you will see no accumulating snow over the next 7 days or so. A lot of that because of this pattern right here. Again, we continue to see high pressure right across western Canada with low pressure, upper level lows on the Pacific coast and the east coast. So lows flanking us to the west and to the east, high pressure overhead. That is the reason for the quiet, mild conditions this winter. And as we hit animation or hit play on the animation here, we see the same pattern really just reloading. So while we'll see some evolution, some fluctuations here, bringing in a stronger area of upper level low pressure across the southwestern and then eventually the southern U.S. that's going to bring a run of active weather to that region, we're still going to see higher atmospheric pressure with that polar jet well off to the north across the Canadian Prairie. So western Canada, you see a look like this. This is a quiet pattern. Again, the jet stream with that little subtle ridge across western Canada where the jet stream kind of makes that little hump, that lowercase n shape with the stronger jet stream flow coming in across the southern Pacific into the southwest U.S. and then across the southern and southeastern United States. So I put these really crude drawings together in a presentation that I gave to some folks in Manitoba on Wednesday or Thursday morning last week. Doesn't really matter. The point is, this is the pattern and the problem with it. When we get this ridging across western Canada, so the storms, and when I say storms, I mean the areas of low pressure, we still see some of these. It's not if the pattern has been completely dead. We're seeing some little disturbances track through the region. We're seeing frontal boundaries come through, bringing a shot of cooler air. But when the storm track is northwest to southeast, this is a drier storm track for us across western Canada. And the reason is we get that counterclockwise flow around the area of low pressure, that cyclonic flow. And so the winds that are feeding into the area of low pressure, kind of feeding into the center and then areas just out ahead of that, they're coming over the top of the Rockies. So the Pacific moisture that is brought with these lows is wrung out by the Rockies as that air is forced to rise up and over the top of the tall mountain range there. And then those winds come sloping down the Rockies and they modify, they become warmer and drier. So we get just these fronts that come through. Again, they bring the shot of cold air, but then that air mass quickly modifies, it warms back up, and it's a dry passage of that storm system. Now, what we want is those storm systems lifting into the prairie. We don't want them diving northwest to southeast. When we get storms that are lifting out of the southwest, we get that southwesterly upper level flow, then we get that circulation flowing into the leading edge of that area of low pressure coming out of the south, just unimpeded, up through the plains of the United States, we get much deeper moisture. We still get some of that Pacific moisture, but now we're starting to get upper level lift coinciding with really deep moisture, and that's how we get these corridors of really heavy soaking rain or a corridor of, significant snow, a classic winter storm. We need these storms to really be lifting into the prairie. The storm track just not there for us. And as we look way into January, I'm taking a snapshot here from the European weeklies. Now, whether or not they really have a firm hold on the specifics here, we'll have to see. But the point is, as far out as I can look into the crystal ball across North America, the pattern doesn't change across Western Canada. We still see ridging across Western Canada, and that makes me think mild temperatures and a storm track that is not going to bring in significant moisture. So do we see a disruption from the polar vortex that I cannot see right now that brings in an intrusion of bitterly cold Arctic air that sets up for a week or more across the prairie in January? That's possible. Do we see that happen and we get an adjustment in the storm track, and now we've suddenly got one or two storms that lift into the prairie and bring a significant coating of snow that I can't see right now sometime in January? Certainly possible. But do I have any sort of little piece of evidence right now to point toward that happening? No. So all I can do is give you a forecast right now that looks a lot like this. We continue to see storm systems at times kind of diving northwest to southeast across the region, bringing light flurries, maybe some light moisture to the area, but the heavier storm track continues to race across the southern U.S., bringing heavier moisture to portions of the southwest U.S., the southern U.S., and eventually the southeastern and eastern U.S. Really just flanking the prairie here as we look at total precipitation verbatim from the European model over the next 10 days, and we're looking at less than 1/10 of an inch in most areas. So here's where you see, again, certainly there's a storm or two that's going to be impacting the area, but that dry storm track, it's going to be more of the same, a shot of colder air, very, very light inconsequential moisture across the region. And here is your temperature forecast, again, over the next 10 days. Showing it with a departure from average, a lot of warm, deep warm colors showing up across the prairie. That is a continuation of the same pattern, which offers, this is a perfect snapshot. You take the next 10 days overall, probably 7 or 8 of them are going to be warmer than average, but you'll certainly find a colder day or two mixed in between. But really, when you think about it, we're just knocking the temperatures back to where they should be a lot of the times. There's hardly any days up here that would be what we would consider to be colder compared to average. It's a lot of warmth, and then maybe a couple days back where they should be. Here's what that looks like in Edmonton, Saskatoon, Regina, and then Winnipeg. We will talk again a week from today. No, we will not. It will be a holiday. That'll be Christmas Day down here in the U.S. So we'll talk here in 2 weeks' time, back as we get into the first part of the new year. So didn't realize that this would be the case here until I started recording the video here, but I guess it's good timing. There's not much to talk about. Enjoy the holiday season here, what looks to be a mild and relatively quiet holiday season compared to, what could be on the table across the Canadian prairie. We'll talk to you again in 2 weeks' time. Have a wonderful day.